am already weary with thinking of how my thoughts are never weary of you. Why does this written doe bound through these written woods for a drink of written water from a spring whose surface will xerox her soft muzzle? Because, in truth, I am speaking now the way you do. I speak because I am shattered. I am glad to be finally a part of this machinery. I was, after all, not so fond of living, and there comes into me to shroud my cherished dead, and on celestial shores I build enormous sepulchres. And here the toad was trusted absolutely. Human beings want death to last forever. You massage the universe's spine the way you twirl through time and leave shadows on the sun. Did you know the sky is so warm? Will you remember its deletion? Queen Box floats high through the room, her tiny teeth embedded in my cartilage. Behold the time of the assassins. A white hunter is nearly crazy, and I have never met a heavy heart that wasn't a phone booth with a red cape inside.
Talking Threads.
So that was just a big mash of a bunch of my favorite poems because I thought it would be fun to put a bunch of good lines together from them and see how it would turn out as a poem of its own. I don't even really know where to start this week with our discussion because I love it so much and there's so much I want to say. And but before I talk about anything else, I should answer Sid's question about a gateway poem. If I had to choose one, I would choose, and this is technically a song, but it sort of isn't, Horses by Patti Smith. Is my favorite song of all time, but it's also one of my favorite poems of all time. If you don't know, Patti Smith is a poet and singer and amazing artist woman, and she's my soulmate, and I love her so much. Actually, there's a video of me reading one of her poems on my main channel because I like to read poems on there a lot, so this theme is really perfect. But Patti Smith is wonderful, and she was a poet before she was a singer. And then Robert Mapplethorpe told her that she should start singing and that he liked her voice, and then she became a singer, and she's known in some circles as the godmother of punk rock. And I first heard Horses when I was 13. I listened to an online radio station that played exclusively female musicians, and Horses came on and changed my life forever. I'm gonna put a link to the audio somewhere here. Also, while we're talking about audio and poetry, Anya's point about how she prefers to read poetry than to listen to it, I think is really interesting because I think that one of the beautiful things about poetry are things that you couldn't get out of a poem unless you were reading it written down, and there are also things that you couldn't get out of a poem unless you were hearing it spoken aloud. And I think that both of those media add so much to the experience in a very unique way. While poetry is, in a lot of ways, meant to be an oral experience, there's also formally a lot of really interesting things that poets do with the physical structure of the appearance of their poem. And Anya, I totally agree with you about how, a period, a semicolon, or a lack of punctuation, all of these tiny things make such a huge difference in a poem. Every smallest detail of a poem was a choice on the part of the writer. Whether unconsciously or consciously, it's there for a reason. I love how dense poetry is in that way and how rich it is in that way. It's so rich they'll always be teaching you something, or you'll always be finding something new in it, I think is great. And Brittany, that story is amazing. The way you told it was beautiful. It's extremely poignant, and I just thank you so much for sharing that story with us. I think one defining feature of poetry is its indefinableness. But poetry is what you make it to be and what you get out of it. And that is beautiful. There are rules, there are structures, there are forms, there are varieties, there are categories, there's all types of things. But you still have infinite options when you are writing a poem. The fact that we can extract something as wonderful and meaningful as poetry from this sea of endless options is so cool. Okay. I'm gonna go read some poetry because I am really in the mood for that right now. Good stuff, guys. I will talk to you later.